week. And before we go, a reminder that it's the Salvo's Red Shield appeal this weekend. Please help out if you can. It's a great cause. But for now, have a great weekend. Good night.
Yeah, that incredible story for you next week. And just a quick reminder before we go, the Salvation Army Red Shield appeal is on over the weekend. Please give generously if you can when they come knocking. Thanks for your company. I'm Kylie Gillies. Have a great weekend.
Well, a new report from the Salvation Army has found 50% of Aussies have gone without a meal because they can't afford it. Joining us with more is Major Bruce Harmer from the Salvation Army. Good morning to you, Bruce.
Good morning, Lisa.
Lovely to see you, but this report does make very sad reading. Why do you think so many Aussies are doing it so tough?
Well, there's many reasons, I guess, but the economic climate that we are in at the moment is making it very difficult for people to make ends meet. Even working mums and dads are coming to us for support, and it's a real concern to us.
Are you seeing people you never would have seen in the past?
That's right. We're seeing a kind of trend change, and the demographics are adjusting, and certainly people with employment these days are also finding it very difficult to make ends meet.
Let's have a look at some of the most common hardships. 29% say they can't afford a decent meal at least once a day. 52% have gone without meals. 15% don't have a washing machine or furniture in reasonable condition. And 45% are selling and pawning possessions to make ends meet.
Yeah, I think the message here very clearly is that there are a large number of people in tremendous need, and they're reaching out to try to make ends meet themselves in many ways, but they need the support of the Salvation Army. They need the support of the community to to get through this difficult period.
If so many more people are needing help now, are you finding that there's possibly an underbelly to all of this, people who aren't putting their hands up because of pride, or they maybe don't know that the Salvos can actually help them?
That's right. There could be elements of pride. I'm sure that's the case. Also shame for being in that kind of circumstance. And the Salvation Army would say to anyone that's in need, put your pride in your pocket. Don't be ashamed of the circumstances you're in. Come forward and we'll help you in a non-discriminatory way and find our way through.
You're a wonderful organisation, and of course you've got the Red Shield appeal this weekend. So if you see one of the Salvos on the street, or if they come knocking on your door, make sure you put your hand in the pocket, because there are so many people who need your help these days. You do wonderful work and couldn't do it without you.
Great. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks very much for that. Over to you, Carl.
Well said, Lisa. Up next.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, Australians' cost of living has become, let's be honest, a political debate. We're constantly hearing about the cost of carbon tax, increasing electricity prices. But the reality is, cost of living doesn't worry politicians when it comes to how they live. Who it worries is the people that sit there on the poverty line with cold months showing up, and also the people that have to help them, the Salvation Army. And every 12 months they help about 1 million people. This weekend will be no different. The Red Shield appeal will be happening, and in the lead up to that, the Salvation Army has released a series of research details, basically outlining what it means to be living on the poverty line and what Australian standard of living actually is. I am joined now by Major Peter Sutcliffe from the Salvation Army. Peter, can you give me some kind of idea of what the research has found?
What is shown to us is that there's around 52% of the people we surveyed who said that they can't afford or go without meals. 29% say they can't afford a decent meal. 45% are saying that they're having to sell or pawn possessions just to make ends meet.
I think right now we're actually taking parts of Channel 10 down to make sure that we can afford to keep going, but we're going to sort out what that noise is. These are staggering figures. Some of the results that I've noted here are people having to forego things like selling their own personal personal belongings, giving up on prescriptions that their GPs are saying they need, medications. Is this poverty problem in this country underestimated?
Look, last year the Australian Council of Social Service estimated 2.2 million Australians are living in poverty. Now, that's a staggering figure.
That's close to 10% of the population.
Nearly 10% of the population living in poverty. And we're seeing that more and more people coming to the Salvos for assistance.
And when you define poverty, what are we talking about? As you say, people having to sell belongings, forego meals. What does it mean for kids?
It means for kids that some of them are not able to go on school excursions. Families are having to cut back on basic necessities. And when we talk about basic necessities, we're talking about bread and milk, and even things like shampoo and soap.
And I think if you asked any Australian, they would say 2.2, that I don't believe you. Is part of the problem here that as Australians we are quite we're very proud people. We don't like to say that we're in trouble.
Very much so. We are proud people. And a lot of the people who come to us say, look, there's got to be worse off people than ourselves. And so they say, look, we don't need much, but, you know, keep it for other people. But if you can just help us out with a little bit for now.
Which, the positive of that is a nice reflection on the type of people that we are.
Yeah, it is. But there's also that stigma attached, oh, look, well, you had to go and get assistance, so, you know, and so some people just don't like that as well, and so they don't sort of speak about being in poverty at all.
How do these numbers compare to previous years at this time?
Look, we get astounded every year we do this research. It just seems to be going up and up all the time. People are really struggling just to make ends meet on a weekly basis. The cost of living is going up, fuel costs are going up, utilities are going up all the time. Everything just seems to be going up. And the people that we assist are on fixed income or limited income, and they are struggling. And
without savings as part of it here, very few of them have savings, which obviously gives them no real room to move if something changes.
Yeah.
This weekend, the Red Shield Appeal, which is a wonderful cause. What is your message to people when they're at home and they get that knock at the door? Obviously, number one, don't hide behind the couch. But number two?
Look, give to the Salvation Army, because what you're doing is you're helping us to transform lives, but more importantly, give people hope.
And people can still actually get online and volunteer to get at it, because you need 100,000 people this weekend to walk around with these tins, as we can see there on the footage, and actually do more than just donate, but actually donate their time to go and ask other people to give generously. Major Peter Sutcliffe, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Enjoy the gastronomic delights around Beechworth next Saturday when wineries, local restaurants, fruit and vegetable producers get together for their 2012 Harvest Celebration. Or why not head along to the Mildura Racecourse on May 19th and be entertained with an exciting day of country racing and fashions on the field at the Mildura Cup Carnival. And it's that time of the year to be part of the 2012 Red Shield Appeal on May 20th. So keep your eyes open for volunteers helping to raise money for the Salvation Army.
Melbourne has a new class of working poor, a growing number of people who are struggling to make ends meet. And the Salvation Army says things are getting worse, with 1 million Australians now relying on their handouts. Karen O'Sullivan met one of those people today.
Cheryl eats 2 meals a day at the Salvation Army Cafe. She only goes home to her rented commission flat to sleep.
I don't put the TV on because I'm too scared I'll run up a bill. I hardly ever put the lights on.
A Salvation Army survey of 1,700 marginalised Australians like Cheryl has found the number of needy is growing dramatically.
I've been doing this work for 20 years and there's no question that we're in a really difficult situation at the moment.
Of those surveyed, half have gone without meals. A third can't afford to heat their homes, while a quarter can't afford a washing machine.
The Salvos say, based on their experience, the people who are doing it toughest are here in central Melbourne, out in Sunshine in the west, Dandenong in Melbourne's east, Preston and Reservoir in the north, and down in Geelong.
The Loaves and Fishes Food Bank in the west has boxes packed for 600 families doing it tough.
I'm expecting that by Christmas it will double.
Like the US, we now have our own class of working poor who can't keep up with rent and bills. And now yet another tax.
And now with the carbon tax, yeah, big deal. They're going to give us $250. What's that going to cover?
Volunteers will door knock this weekend for the Salvo's Red Shield Appeal. Karen O'Sullivan, 7 News.
And it's a big weekend for the Salvation Army, which is carrying out its annual Red Shield Appeal. From early morning, collectors were out in force, determined to raise funds to help the Salvos look after Australia's most vulnerable people. The appeal aims to bring in $81.5 million, $10 million of that from this weekend's efforts. Each year, the appeal supports over 1,000 community welfare programs and more than 1 million individual calls for help.
Some more news now, and shocking stats have been released by the Salvos in the lead-up to this weekend's Red Shield Appeal. The research shows of those who need help, just over half have gone without a meal, while almost 1 in 2 have pawned their possessions just to get by. And for more on this, we're joined by Salvation Army spokesperson Major Andrew Craib. Andrew, these statistics are really worrying. Why are people struggling so bad?
Look, for those who come to the Salvation Army for assistance, a good part of it comes from the fact that 94% of them actually responded saying that they have nothing to fall back on. You know, when something happens and they lose their job or they're reduced in hours, there's no backup plan, there's no finances to carry them through. And so they begin to struggle.
So how can this be happening when we have a welfare system in place to help people?
Look, a good part of that comes from, I think, an inadequacy of the benefits that people are receiving. You know, if we look at the New Start allowance, we would see that people who are receiving that are actually living below the poverty line. And so when they come up against the rising costs of living, it just becomes one struggle after another. You know, 52% of the respondents actually said they were never able to pay an account on time. And once they get finished paying it, they start all over again with another account.
Now, the Red Sheet Appeal is this weekend, right? So how can we get involved?
Look, I think that there are a couple of things that people can do. You know, thinking of the, million acts of kindness, they might look out for others in their neighbourhood who seem to be doing it tough and helping them out. But also when someone comes from the Salvos knocking on their door, that they remember their fellow Australians, that they dig deep and they give generously to make a difference in other Australians' lives.
Andrew, thanks for speaking to us. All the best with the Red Shield Appeal this weekend.
Thanks
it's coming
again for
up.
your support.
Cheers, no worries. And of course you can donate on 1372.58 or head to our website for all the details.
Well, talking about doing it tough, a new survey conducted by the Salvation Army has found that many people seeking its help don't have enough to eat and have been forced to cut down on basic necessities. The Salvos polled more than 1,700 of its clients in the lead-up to the annual Red Shield Appeal.
Glenn Davidson lives in a flat in inner-city Sydney. For years, Glenn was addicted to amphetamines. To support his habit, he dealt drugs.
I used to have a lot of anger and hatred inside, torment, you know, I just wanted to cause havoc wherever I went.
6 years ago, Glenn did a rehab course with the Salvation Army. He says without the Salvos, he had only two prospects.
I would have been in jail, or I would have been more than likely underground, you know.
Glenn's story is one of thousands the Salvation Army sees on a regular basis. The organisation recently surveyed 1,700 of its clients.
More than half the people polled by the Salvation Army are going without regular meals. A quarter don't have a washing machine or furniture that's in a reasonable condition.
The Salvos say the research reveals a clear snapshot of what's happening to people who are in crisis.
I guess the most telling statistics for me were around prescription medications. 37% of those surveyed said that they couldn't even pay for the medications that a doctor had prescribed for them.
PJ Streeton Nicholson was homeless for years. With the help of the Salvos, he found accommodation and is now looking for work. But life, he says, is still a struggle.
Last year for Christmas, I couldn't even buy my children a present. I was in Kmart and I ended up breaking down and just started crying.
For Glenn Davidson, there's now much to look forward to. He's focusing on doing a business course at TAFE.
I do have peace with myself. It's and the Salvation Army have helped me find that place.
The Salvation Army's Red Shield Appeal is this weekend. Lisa Upton, World News Australia.